Okay, and welcome back to the third video in this series on what to do when your debits don't equal your credits on your trial balance. Just as a brief recap, um, when we take our books, we make copies of our general ledger accounts, our general journal. We made a copy of the general journal, and then we used a highlighter to make sure our debits equaled our credits for each journal entry. Then we made a copy of our trial balance. Okay. And we used a highlighter in order to make sure that we posted our journal entries to our general ledger accounts correctly, and when we did, we highlighted them. Then we did the math to get the balances in the account in the general ledger accounts, and when those balances are correct, we highlighted those balances. Okay, so here is my general ledger. Okay, and I made sure that that these balances are correct, and that's why they're highlighted in green. Okay, so now the next step is we have to transfer those balances to our trial balance and then foot our trial balance. So let me scroll down here. Okay, here's my trial balance. Now remember, the reason why you're going through all this procedure is generally, your debits did not equal your credits and you were trying to find your errors. And since you're working on the copies, whenever you came across an error, you would go and correct it on your original, follow that correction through your books, and then hopefully your uh, debits equaled your credits on your trial balance. Right? Now, you would want to make a copy of your trial balance. Obviously, we're working on copies. We're not going to work on the original. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a different highlighter color. I had used yellow, blue, green, and now I'm going to use purple, right? Yeah, go out and buy the highlighters, okay? Or use crayons or something. I don't know. Or use just a pencil, a red pen, a green pen, a black pen, and a pencil or something, right? Something that's just different colors. But it helps to have the different highlighters. So we had our accounts, we had the balances in our general ledger accounts, and we needed to transfer them to our trial balance. So we're going to use the highlighter again in order to be able to track that transfer of information. Okay, so I'm going to use purple this time, and under my cash account here, okay, I have a balance of $60,590 on the debit side. So when I come down to my trial balance, I want to look and see, oh yeah, my cash account has 60,590. I know that's correct, and I highlight it. Oops, back up there, do that again, make it a little bit more neat. Okay, so that's correct, and I would come back up to my general ledger account and highlight that. Ooh, makes it black this time. All right, no big deal. Actually, a big deal. Let me, instead of using the purple highlighter, let's see what happens when I use the yellow one. That doesn't do anything. So instead, I'm going to use a blue line no, I don't like that either. Now you see why using highlighters are great. That's green. Let's see what red does. All right, so yeah, I'm going to use the red, a red line. Use a purple highlighter instead. But anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's just so that you can be able to read that number if you need to. All right. So I have in my accounts receivable a debit balance of $12.70. I come down to the trial balance, and I see that for accounts receivable, I have a debit balance of $12.70, which is good. Okay, so I'm going to, or in this case here, I'm going to use a check mark. That's it. That looks better. Yeah. Okay. See, it's just the idea. It's not you have to do it exactly the same way that I'm doing it here. It's just so that I recognize that I have the correct balance. Okay, so office supplies, I have a debit of $9.10. I'll come down to the trial balance, and under office supplies, I have a debit balance of $9.10. Great. Back up, and that's all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go down through each and every one of these. Oops. Prepaid insurance, a debit balance of $8.70. which prepaid insurance, a balance of $870. And again, if I had a mistake somewhere, I would go back onto my original and I would correct it. So that's the idea. So let me just skip past doing all that stuff manually. I am going to check everything off as if I had made sure that I had I had checked them to make sure that I transferred that information correctly. Okay, so that means that all of these numbers here would have been highlighted. Okay, following that procedure. Okay, so now they're all highlighted, meaning I made sure that the balance in the general ledger account is the balance on the trial balance. I wrote the correct number in the correct column, the debit or credit column. But we have one last step to do. Obviously, we now need to do the math. So, I'm going to add up what's in my debit column, come out with an amount, and I'm going to add up what's in my credit column and come up with an amount. And remember, like I said in the last video, I'm going to run it 3 times, okay? If I can get the same number 3 times in a row, then a high probability that's the correct number. If I run it twice, sure, I might come up with the same number, but there might be there's a small probability, but still a large enough chance that maybe I had made a mistake twice in a row. Okay, and then the third time I actually did it right. So run 3 times, and if I run it all 3 times, then I should come up with the right my debits equaling my credits, 77,010 in this case. Okay, and if remember, if you had made a mistake on your books and you have this mistake on your copies, you'd be correcting your copies and you'd be correcting your original. So hopefully everything flowed through and you ended up with those correct amounts. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Now, let's say you had gotten to this point, and let's say you're still off. For some reason, you're still off. I mean, there is a chance that that could happen. Okay, depends upon how tired you are, how focused you are. I mean, if theoretically, if you were really, really concentrating and really, really focused and you were paying very close attention, it's highly unlikely that your balances are going to be off now once you found those mistakes. But if you're going through it really quick, you're tired and you're not paying attention, whatever have you, it's still possible for it to be wrong. Okay, well, in that case, guess what? Start all over again. Get a whole new, make all new copies of your journal, your general ledger accounts, and your trial balance, and go through the process again. Okay. Now, when your debits don't equal your credits, as I said before in the first video, that's your work. Nobody can help you find that mistake. Students call up and say, well, I have a mistake and I don't know where it is. All we can do as instructors or anybody else is to just tell you what the process is, I mean, and what that is by now, how to make journal entries, debits equal credits, transferring to the posting to the general ledger accounts, which is nothing more than rearranging the information, doing the math to get the balances in the accounts, transferring them to the trial balance, and then doing the math on the trial balance. It's just, those are the easy steps. And if you were able to do one journal entry correct and post it all the way through and put it on the trial balance, your debit should equal your credits. With one entry, it's simple. Well, when you have 100 entries, basically you have one entry 100 times. So it's no more difficult doing the second one than it is doing the first one. Okay, but like I said, people do make mistakes. Me included. There isn't an accountant that hasn't made a mistake. And they've all kind of developed their own way of finding their mistake because it's their books. The procedure I've just showed you is what I've done in order to help me find my mistakes. It's a procedure, a step-by-step process, and I find that I generally can narrow down pretty quickly where I made that mistake, but I have to be focused and concentrated when doing it. So I hope these last 3 videos have helped you. Remember, underneath the financial accounting section, There is a Word document, debits do not equal credits, error detection procedure. There's a Word document that has a listing of the steps in the procedure that I use. This was just a visual representation of that. So if you have any questions, feel free to call and speak with an instructor. But between reading that document and watching these videos, if you have a mistake on your books, you should be able to find that mistake with relatively ease. Okay, so that's it for this series.